Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Tuesday, November 19th. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a practice today, their only open practice of the week as they prepare for their Cleveland Browns, who they will play on Thursday Night Football in just 2 days. Short week on the South Side, so we will talk to coordinators. There will be practice, and then I will be back here on the YouTube channel with Zachary Smith at just about 6 p.m. Lots going on today, so let's get right into it. Had a lot of questions about why the Steelers aren't using Mike Williams more. And I understand the question because he did not have a target in Sunday's game against the Baltimore Ravens. But they are using him, and they will be using him more. I just want to explain maybe why he didn't get the ball and what the thought process is. So it's two things, right? The first thing is Mike Williams has 6 practices with the team. He doesn't have the whole offensive playbook yet. There are not, he's not familiar with every package, every play. It takes these guys 3 months to learn this playbook in the offseason. You're asking a guy to come in and do it right away. Now, could you just run a limited set of plays and only use those limited set of plays so you could use Mike Williams all the time? Yeah, you could. But the Steelers are clearly not so enthralled with the idea of Mike Williams that they're willing to cut down their playbook just to have him on the field all the time. They would rather have the entire menu available to them. And if it's not something he's familiar with or comfortable with, they'll use a different player. And the Steelers also had 6 wide receivers dressed in this game. So there were a lot of times where maybe they could have used Mike Williams, but he wasn't necessarily the best fit for what they were looking for him to do. Like, look at a lot of the reps Ben Skoranek got in this game where he was mostly blocking. Could you have put Mike Williams out there instead? Sure, Mike Williams is a very good blocker. You probably could have got him another 10 or 15 snaps. But for what? He wasn't getting the ball, so it didn't really matter. You may as well use the guy you got who's dressed there, as an extra. They won't have 6 dressed all the time, I'm sure of that. So there's that factor at play. The second factor is that the Baltimore Ravens sort of took away Mike Williams from the Steelers when he was out there. We got the whiteboard today. Just going to show you 2 things quickly, not the whole episode here, so just bear with me. But the way the Washington Redskins attacked the Commanders. Wow, gonna get roasted for that one. The Washington Commanders attacked the Steelers offense was to have George here, okay, wide receiver here, doesn't matter who, line. Let's say they're in 2 tight end, right? They were shading a safety towards Pickens, okay, and they were in cover 3 or quarter half, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so they were basically leaving this guy over here in one-on-one coverage all game, which is why you saw Russ attempt all those deep shots to Van Jefferson or Calvin Austin or whoever was over there until he eventually completed the last one to Williams. Baltimore did it differently. Baltimore played cover 2. So they left 2 safeties high and 2 guys here. So they had over-the-top coverage over both outside receivers. They were not letting Mike Williams go deep, and that's kind of all Mike Williams does. There's a hole shot here you could try, but if you're going to try that low percentage pass, you would try it over here. In fact, the Steelers did. They completed that hole shot. George Pickens, long completion down the sideline. Where the opening here is you have one poor linebacker here and one slot corner here to deal with all the underneath stuff you can come up with. And that's why, for example, Darnell Washington had a big game. In fact, there's a play late in this game on the Steelers' final field goal drive where you see 18 is here. He runs up, and Darnell Washington is right here, comes right behind him up the seam. It's a big play, about 15 yards. The way the Ravens attacked the Steelers' offense, it made Mike Williams not as much of a factor. He played 23 snaps. It's not like he wasn't out there. He just wasn't open. Other guys were open. And I don't really know if that's going to continue. But I said when the Steelers traded for Mike Williams that there will be an impact whether he records the stats or not. And I think that's what that's showing you right there, is that the Ravens were so concerned with Russ throwing deep that not only were they trying to take away George deep, they were trying to take away Williams deep as well. And that opened things up underneath for Darnell Washington. It also made lighter boxes to run into. Najee Harris was not running into nearly as heavy boxes against the Ravens as he was against the Commanders. A better run defense, but still, the Steelers rushed for 122 yards between Harris and Jaylen Warren against what had been the number one rushing defense in the league in Baltimore because the two safeties were back there. So it's just another weapon. It's another thing that gives a defense something they have to deal with. He played 9 snaps in his first game, played 23 snaps in the second game. I assume we're going to see that number ramp up. I think it will continue to go up. I don't know if he's ever going to play as much as, say, George Pickens does, but, I mean, he will become, I think, the second most used wide receiver on the team. Just right now, he doesn't have the whole playbook, and his impact will be determined by the way teams attack the Steelers. If teams want to continue with that Baltimore look, then the Steelers are going to run the ball more, and the Steelers are going to throw more underneath stuff and throw more screens. The screen game was really good for the Steelers in this one. Throw more to Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth. And so you can't take away everything. I thought the one touchdown to Williams against the Commanders, I think that and how many, like if you look at that game and you substitute Van Jefferson for Calvin Austin and some of those deep balls, if you're a defensive coordinator and you're looking at that, you're like, oh my gosh, they only played him 9 snaps last game. He's out there for 23 and all these deep passes that just barely missed by Calvin Austin and just barely missed by Van Jefferson. Mike Williams is going to catch those. We can't give him 4 of those in a game. Like, that'll kill us. So that's what they looked at that just from that one touchdown, said, oh, can't do that again. Okay, here's plan B, and we'll see how the Steelers attack it. And I'll be honest, Steelers moved the ball between the 20s okay. They kind of struggled in the red zone against it. But, I don't think the game ever got to a point where the Ravens felt like they needed to change up their plan and do something else. The Steelers weren't having so much success attacking Baltimore the way they were lined up that they felt like they needed to change. So they pretty much stuck with that plan for most of the game. So you did see more Darnell Washington. You saw more in the screen game. You saw better than anticipated running success for Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. All that was because of Mike Williams, even though he was mostly just running cardio out there. He also is a really good blocker, and they used him in that screen game quite a bit. And he was just on the field in bunches and things like that for running plays a whole lot. That's not an impact a lot of people notice. In fact, I know it's frustrating just because of the tight week. I didn't want to wait for the all 22 to rewatch this game, so I rewatched the broadcast angle first. It's so frustrating watching the broadcast angle because you guys don't even ever know what the outside receivers are doing unless they get the ball. So yeah, he was out there blocking a lot. He was doing a lot of good things. He was out there a lot. Second, I think he was the 4th most played wide receiver, but his reps more than tripled. And so, or almost tripled, I should say. And so I think you're going to continue to see that ratchet up. Whether he's a big part of the offense in terms of targets, I don't know that Van Jefferson was not a big part of this offense in terms of targets in his role. I don't expect Mike Williams to be a huge part. I just think he's going to be an essential part to keep defenses from keying on Pickens without a penalty. And I think he's going to be a key part to provide some depth in case George Pickens happens to get injured. That's what I got for today. More for right now. More today coming. Sights and sounds from the South Side is our one live practice window of the week. And then me and Smitty here for Steelers Afternoon Drive, 6 o'clock. Don't miss it. Like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review if you're listening somewhere else. And, of course, go over to SteelersNow.com and check out all the written work. Until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and enjoy.